Another large farmer protest is taking place in the national capital. Tens of thousands of farmers from across the country have mobilized, demanding better prices for their crops and waivers of their loans. This protest is only the latest in a series of marches that we have seen over this year. Rural distress or agricultural distress is being seen in several parts of the country and is expected to be a key issue in all the states that have elections this season. But with all of this talk of farm distress, there is a lack of clarity on what the actual problem is. We are trying to break it down for you. So here are the top 5 questions on agricultural distress, and I'm joined today by food policy and agricultural expert Devinder Sharma to answer these questions. Thank you, Mr. Sharma, for speaking with us here on BloombergQuint. Okay, let's start with the first question, the key basic one. Why are farmers across the country in so much distress? Take any state and there is a problem. From Tamil Nadu to Punjab to Madhya Pradesh to even the northeastern parts of the country. And this despite a number of measures being announced for them. So let me take that to Mr. Sharma. Why is their distress so prevalent, and it seems in the last couple of years it has only increased?
Well, you are right. In the last couple of years, the protests have only increased. If I look at the official data coming from the National Crime Record Bureau, it tells us that in 2014, there were about 640 protests in a year. Then in just 2 years, 2016, the number went up to about 4,800. It's a jump of 7 times in just 2 years. And in the last 2 years, 16 to 2018, we have seen the protest increasing exponentially. So there is something terribly going wrong. The reason is simple. The farmers are in anguish, they are in anger, the anger is now spilling onto streets. And what we are failing to realize is that this anger is essentially because we have deliberately deprived agriculture of the kind of economic gains it should have been achieved, it should have been receiving. Now that's the reason why farmers are in distress. We are not looking at it that why over the last few decades the farmers have not got the real price, or at least the prices have remained frozen as far as the farmers are concerned. Now, once the prices are remained frozen, what can the farmer do? He takes credit to pay back that another credit. So he's indebted times and times again. And now he is standing up.
Okay, so you've come to the next very important question, that the farmers are indebted because what they're receiving for their produce, for their product, agricultural product, those prices have frozen. That's what you're explaining. But their costs of producing have gone on increasing, so they're taking loans. Let me come to the next question then. Do farm loan waivers actually work? And we have seen farm loan waivers being announced right from 2016, 2017 in all states, pretty much in various states. The states going to polls are also now have different parties promising farm loan waivers. So then why is there still a problem? Do these farm loan waivers actually work?
Well, let's be first of all very clear that when we talk of farm loan waiver, I'm not talking of just touching the tip of the iceberg. Now, what has happened in the last few years that we are only touching the tip of the iceberg, writing off loans of, let's say, 1 lakh crore rupee, 1 lakh rupees, the loan that is outstanding, or 2 lakh rupees in some states. That's all. But we are not looking at the total amount that has to be written off. It's a kind of repentance. You know, after all these years, we have deprived the farmers of the right price. And it is now an opportunity for the nation to go in for what is called in Hindi prashchit. Let's do that prashchit first. It's a short-term measure, but it must be done. What is the total amount of write-offs or the loan waivers that we are talking about? You know, Marilyn Lynch had told us that before 2019 election, it would be about 2.5 lakh crores. Now, what is 2.5 lakh crores that we are so worried about? Look at in 2014 April till 2018 April, the corporates have got a loan, write-off of 3,16,000 crores. Nobody had, raised any point. But the moment you talk about farmers, everyone is up in arms saying, oh, is that the solution? Please tell me, is write-off the solution for corporate world also? But then
let me come in with a counter question. Counter question, Mr. Sharma. The UPA government had waived off farm loans across the country. And many believed that's what helped them win a second term. But yet, several years later, we're back to square one. So how do we know the same thing won't happen if we again waive off all farm loans in one mass effort, or prashchit, as you describe it?
Well, let's be very clear. As I said earlier, loan waiver is a short-term measure. We need to set the entire process right. Once we have done it, we need to come back with a series of reforms. We need to see that the farmers get his rightful income, which is due to him, and we must put a kind of a system in place for that. Unfortunately, we only think that tinkering with the loan waivers is all that the farmers require. Unfortunately, it's not true. And if this is true, that if how long can the loan waivers go on? I think UPA government or the NDA government or even the previous NDA government before that have been writing off corporate loans, but nobody has posed the same questions to them. It is okay as far as corporate loans are to be written off. Everyone is happy. In fact, the economic advisor used to say that writing off corporate loans leads to economic growth. Look at that. And then we say, but the writing off or waiving off of the farmer loans leads to economic indiscipline. Now that clearly tells us how the narrative is very cleverly built. It's socialism for corporation, capitalism for farmers. That is what has hit the farmers.
Well, then let's come to the other very crucial question. Now, we've all heard everyone talking about MSP, minimum support price. MSP has been announced and hiked in various situations for various crops. There are other schemes as well. There are now schemes proposed which say that if farmers sell below the minimum support price in the open market, that the government will, make good the difference and will reimburse them in a sense. There are irrigation schemes. There are just so many schemes that are being announced all the time. Despite that, why are farmers still unhappy?
Well, let's be first of all very clear that the MSP the farmers get is the minimum that he invests in agriculture. What he has put on his labor as well as what all he has invested, the inputs that he has spent or the out-of-pocket expenses is all that the farmer gets. Now, the question that we need to ask is, why doesn't the farmer get things like a house rent allowance, educational allowance? Where does the profit come in that picture? Now, what all the government has been able to do this time is not to follow actually the MS Swaminathan's recommendation of MSP plus 50% profit, but it has tinkered with the formula and is providing a kind of a change formula which is actually not giving farmers the rightful income that he still deserves. But having said that, what is important to know is that MSP is given to only 6% farmers in this country. So which means the benefit of MSP plus 50% will also go to those 6% farmers. What about the remaining 94% farmers? If the markets were so good, the farming sector would not have been in the kind of crisis that we see.
You brought up the MS Swaminathan report, and I'm glad you did, because this report has found its way in manifestos right before the last 2014 elections. Everyone keeps talking about the MS Swaminathan report, and we've had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Swaminathan a couple of times. He has talked about how no government has bothered to implement his report. But my question, are the MS Swaminathan report recommendations actually implementable? Because there has been no example of anyone, any state government being able to implement them at all.
It is believed that the moment you raise the prices as per Swaminathan recommendation, the inflation will go up. And to maintain inflation, they are passing on the entire burden to the farmers. My point is, if you have to maintain inflation, please do that. But why should farmer be penalized to grow crops? That's a question which I would like to ask. Why can't the government provide an indirect mechanism or a direct mechanism to pay farmers what is due to him? Now, you buy from the farmers at the minimum support price, and whatever is due to him which you are not able to pay, please, now everyone has a Jan Dhan account, pay in the Jan Dhan account. That's the way it has to be done. But the intention real is that you don't want to pay farmers, because the bigger economic thinking is that farmers must be forced to, or must be asked to, or must be made to quit agriculture to come into the urban areas. Raghuram Rajan used to say the biggest ticket reforms would be when we are able to move farmers out of agriculture into the urban areas, because urban areas need the Hadi Mazdoor. If that is the economic model, well, I have nothing more to say.
Okay, let's now come to the issue of politics, because agricultural distress is right now a very politicized issue. We know that there are elections in 5 states. All key parties have been promising several things to farmers. In your view, is there any party that actually has any idea of how to solve this problem? Is there a workable solution from any party's manifesto or even any government?
I think the very first thing or the basic or foundation for addressing this crisis lies in providing farmers with an assured income. Unfortunately, none of the political parties are aiming at providing farmers with an assured income package. Now, I would feel, or I think that's the only way forward is to now use MSP or Bhavantar scheme or the FPOs as the basic foundation to work out what is the average cost of the farmers in, let's say, in one district. Now, whatever is the gap remaining between what is the minimum living income that a farmer should get, and I think in my understanding it works out to be 18,000 rupees per month for a farming family. The remaining gap between what is the average in a district and what is the permissible or what should be given to farmers should be paid by the state. Now, that's the only way forward. And please, let's not say, oh, where is the money for that? When the question is, for 7th Pay Commission, nobody asked this question, where is the money for that? But when it comes to agriculture, everyone is up in arms saying, where will the money be made available? That's the bigger question. And I think for that, we need to revisit the Fiscal Responsibility and Business Budget Management Act, as well as the fiscal prudence that we try to bring it through the finance commissions. We need to relook at it, why agriculture is being deprived of its due share, by way of investments, by way of income to the farmers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma, for taking all of our questions today. And we hope this has helped all of you to really answer some basic questions on why we are seeing this burst of farmer distress over the last few years. Over 70% of India's population is engaged in agriculture. If 70% of us are in deep, deep trouble, for how long can we keep ignoring it? It's a question we all need to ask ourselves.